to InspireTalk this evening, another show of our developing InspireTalk format, and quickly becoming famous format too, I might add. Of course, we're coming to you from all over Australia. Myself from the Gold Coast. We've got my host also, my co-host is also coming to you from Melbourne, and our guest, well, we'll find out where she's from. But InspireTalk is all about speaking to new people, finding out new things and what they do to create success for themselves, and of course some of this that they can impart to us. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, which is Federico. Federico, good to see you this evening.
Hello from down under Melbourne. How are you, Stuart? Again, it's great to be here tonight, and I can't believe this is our third or fourth month of running this show, and I think this must be our sixth or seventh event under the InspireTalk banner, and it just keeps getting better, especially because tonight we have an awesome guest, Fiona herself. So I can't wait to start chatting to Fiona in tonight's show.
Yeah, absolutely, and look, I'm really enjoying the growth around this show as well. It's really sort of latching on to something that's really people, and perhaps I can just ask you very quickly, Federico, to talk a little bit about InspireTalk and what do you think it means to our audience?
When I first thought about InspireTalk with the rest of the team, and all the co-founders being yourself, Renil, Raghushapaksha, and Wendy Grenfell, the four of us came together with the idea of putting together a platform that was accessible online and available to anyone, not just in Australia but overall globally, reaching out to places as distant as South Africa, and in fact one of our guests earlier on in the show was from Johannesburg. It's essentially providing a platform or a meeting ground where people can talk about business, they can talk about inspirational stories, they can share their wisdom, their stories of success, their journeys, where they're going, how they think, what their mindset does, what inspires them to do what they do. And in terms of the genre of the show, it's not just about business or about entrepreneurship per se. It's really about fascinating stories, and that can encompass people within the political arena, people within the celebrity status, sports people, or anyone who's got sort of the game changer label, or perhaps someone who believes that they've done something quite extraordinary or different in the marketplace, and hence why I personally went out and searched for someone for tonight's show, and that was Fiona. And for me, Fiona is someone that I've had professional dealing with in the past, and she's come up with a very amazing service, which she'll talk about shortly. But again, it's about talking and about sharing ideas and thoughts to guide either aspiring entrepreneurs or people who want success in their own right, to kind of learn about something from this show that they can take away from. So it's really about sharing those little gems.
Yeah, totally agree, and we have had some wonderful guests on the show, and they've been able to impart some really amazing content. It's been really special to have some of that gifted to us in this show, and we certainly appreciate that. And in our guest tonight, we have somebody equally inspiring, and of course really able to offer most of our guests, if not all of them, the opportunity to create something new and wonderful in their own lives. And with that, I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'd really like you to join in and welcome along Fiona Jones from Millionaire School. Welcome along, Fiona.
Thanks a million, Stuart and Federico. It's really great to be here tonight, and I really resonated with what you were talking about then, with the platform that you've given to people in Australia and across the globe.
Thanks very much.
What I love about your tagline is "Thanks a million," and that seems to be something that's very core to your language and to your philosophy to life. It's just the use of the word million, which I love.
Absolutely. I often think that when I'm writing my emails or I'm signing off on my podcasts or something, it's always thanks a million, because I'm about inspiring millions as well. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. In fact, when I first met you, Fiona, going back 3 or 4 years ago, you came to me with a proposition which was about contributing to a book which you published alongside many other books, which perhaps you can talk about, is the Millionaire book series, which you started to develop several years back. So would you be able to maybe give us an insight on what that was all about and where that is at today?
So the Millionaire books came from an inspiration that I had when I was at a time in my life where I'd left my career. I had 15 years ago, I was working as an obstetric ultrasonographer, so I was one of those people that when ladies were pregnant, I'd do ultrasounds on their tummies. And then about 10 years ago, I had started my own bricks and mortar business. And during that time, what ended up happening was I ended up leaving that career due to an injury, and I was forced to sell the business due to some personal circumstances at the time. So I needed a way to replace the income that I actually was receiving from that job. So I started attending lots of different seminars. And at those seminars, I was finding out about people that were building businesses or perhaps investing in property or property development or shares. And what I found was I was so fascinated with the people that were sharing their story of how they developed that success. So not so much the strategy of the property or the shares, for example, but what I loved was that success story behind the person. So I just found I was fascinated by that. And at one of those events as well, I was told that everybody has a book inside of them and you can write a book. So I signed up to do a course really not knowing what I was going to write a book on. I didn't really have any aspirations to be a published author, but I went through that course and became a best-selling author with that first book, and I went on to produce a whole series of books, which, as you said, Federico, you featured in one of those books. So I developed a strategy whereby I was getting other people's content, which is a really great leverage way that people can produce a book, is using other people's inspiring content and bringing it all together in a platform where every one of those people could share their message.
Wow. And what inspired you or made you think of the word millionaire? Like, what does millionaire actually mean to you?
To me, millionaire means abundance, but I was also very deliberate in choosing the word millionaire, in that what I found was that people who are doing the 9 to 5 and sort of looking for doing things bigger in their life, I guess, looking at having more wealth, more abundance, it was a little bit like a hook. I looked at it as a hook in terms of millionaire is a very attractive term. People want to be a millionaire. How can I be a millionaire? So I actually used it as a hook, but if anyone's actually read the chapters and read the books, you'll actually see that I explain in terms of millionaire about being abundance in all areas of your life. So people are having great relationships, great health, great careers, all of the different things that really altogether make somebody abundant in their life.
Wow. So across the several books you wrote, in fact, 10 or so books that you developed, what would you say is the common thread amongst all the authors in terms of what you uncovered in their way of thinking and the way they look at life or their careers?
Well, I guess the thing that is common amongst all, and I guess I've interviewed over 100 people for that series, really is their mindset and what I call having a millionaire mindset. That is really the key to everything. And I'm sure all of your listeners have heard that all before, that it really is about having that mindset to go out and do whatever it is in what area of their life and take inspired action. I think if I say millionaire mindset and what that means in terms of maybe breaking it down a little bit, it's things like feeling the fear and doing it anyway, taking inspired action, modeling success, choosing a mentor, investing in themselves, and by that I mean in their personal development, in their education, sharing what they know with others and helping others to achieve the same success that they have.
Yeah. So when you go selecting candidates for your books, or perhaps those that you want to encourage, what type of attributes or thought processes should those people or candidates have if they decide to, write a book or participate in a co-authoring venture?
In terms of the people I looked for, is that what you're asking, Federico? In terms of the people I chose to interview?
What type of people ideally would be suitable candidates to actually write a book, with your support and guidance?
So basically, difference makers, so anybody who wants to make a difference in the world by sharing their message, their passion, their love of something. So whether that is making a difference in terms of do they have a hobby or a passion or an expertise. The other people that would that is suitable to what I do are business owners. So business owners that want to produce a book in a specific type of way that their book could actually be a business card or a brochure for their book. And also writers, people that perhaps are a writer and they just need help in terms of actually publishing their book. So I guess that.
Do you need exceptional writing skills to be able to, write your own book, or is it something that you can assist in that process?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think that's a real myth, and so many people, one of the biggest objections that I come up to when people want to write and publish their book, one of the biggest objections is, I'm not a writer. And I guess the distinction I love to make is that I'm here to help people become a published author and not to be a writer. It's not about being the great writer. If you are and you love to write, then that's fantastic. If you don't like writing, then there are so many ways that you can still get your content, share your message, make a difference in the world by becoming a published author without needing to sit and write. Because a lot of the people that I've had in my book series or I've assisted them with their books, they're certainly not people who want to sit down and actually write their book. But I also like to say that people are writing more in their business more than ever before, because people are writing blogs now, people are writing emails, you're texting more than ever before. So I think people, you're doing posts on Facebook and social media. So I think people are writing actually probably more than ever before. But no, you don't need to be a writer to be a published author, that's for sure.
Look, I can personally testify that the opportunity I had with you to participate in the Millionaire Coach series actually gave me a stepping stone and an opportunity of discovering my skill and perhaps interest in writing per se. And 3 or 4 years on, after having had that first opportunity to write a chapter, I now write professionally, and I'm considered a freelance writer for a number of magazines, and I do have to acknowledge you for that first opportunity. So I'm actually saying this to a lot of people out there who are thinking about perhaps developing a career in professional writing, whether it's in the editorial space for a certain publication, is to maybe use this stepping stone or this write your own book opportunity with you as a way forward and a way of exploring your talent and your skill in writing. And it's something that does evolve and does develop slowly, but I felt personally that I needed that platform, I needed that encouragement, and I needed the guidance and mentorship that you provided to begin with. So thank you for that, Fiona.
That's a pleasure, and wow, I'm so happy that inspired you to take on other avenues of obviously sharing your message through those other platforms. And I think one of the things that particularly business owners need to do these days is publish. To profit, you do need to publish, I believe, and whatever way you're publishing your content, a book is certainly one of those ways, and a book is certainly a way that I guess has a long shelf life compared to some sort of publications, for example, something that might be a magazine or something that doesn't stay around for a long time. But when you publish in terms of your book, you're certainly publishing something that has a shelf life of 5 to 7 years, and then you can always repurpose that. Whatever content you put in your book, there's so many ways to then repurpose that into your blogs, into your posts, into your podcasts, or like what you said, articles for magazines, and become a writer and share your message in other ways. That's great.
Yeah. I definitely agree on the shelf life. I'll give Stuart an opportunity to perhaps ask some questions that Stuart has been patiently waiting there on the side. Stuart, back to you.
No problem at all. So I'm really been quite keen listening to what you've been saying there, Fiona, and one of the things that perhaps is a stumbling block or a perceived stumbling block for maybe an individual or even a business person is if I'm gonna create a book or have a book authored or whatever process is involved, how to ensure that that book is then sold or even picked up by a publisher. I know that the world has changed, but perhaps you could explain some of those things and how she works much more effectively today.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, a big question, I guess. I think the first thing is when somebody sets out to write a book is absolutely starting with the end in mind, because it's like that saying that says failing to plan is planning to fail. So many people set out to write a book. And interestingly, the New York Times did a survey earlier this year, and what they found is 81% of people actually said they want to write a book, but only a small percentage of that does. So it just got me to thinking, perhaps why is that, and why? And I really think it's because they just don't follow a system or follow a proven system. So they don't know what the end result is. So if you don't know the outcome for the reason or the purpose that you're writing your book, then it's very hard to achieve those publishing goals. But when you have a clear vision from the start of what your book is actually going to do for you, so is your book going to be a business card? Is it going to be a lead generator? Is it a legacy that you're going to leave in the world? Is it an autobiography? Is it a memoir? So once you actually know the purpose for that book, then you're going to include the right sort of things in your book that are going to make it attractive to your target audience, to your market for your book. And I think when you set out with the right intentions for it, then it's much easier. And obviously choosing a mentor, whether that's somebody like me or somebody else who's teaching you, I think the most important thing is find someone that's done what you want. It's that Tony Robbins saying, you know, find someone successful that's done what you've done. Do what they do and you'll be successful, because otherwise I think it can be a massive minefield to go out, and there's so much information available. If you start Googling how to publish a book, there's just so much information, but it really does come down to strategy and achieving the goal for your book.
Absolutely, and I noticed too that you said that when you created your first book, it was quite successful in the first instance. Is that correct? And how did that happen?
So I actually was very, very strategic from the beginning. So I guess what I want to say to people is you don't need to have a best-selling book to have a successful book, but you do need to include the things to make your book successful. And as I said, start with the end in mind. So in terms of what I had set out to do, I had set out to build a business behind my book. So it was very strategic. I chose people to be part of my book series who were people that would pre-purchase books from me, so that it was a win-win situation in that. So even before I'd printed my books, I already had pre-sales of all of the books. That was enough volume to make it a bestseller before it was actually printed. So it was very strategic, and a lot of bestsellers out there in the marketplace are strategic, whether they're going on New York Times bestseller, whether they're bestsellers on Amazon. And a lot of the time when you're seeing people be a bestseller on Amazon, Amazon's updated every hour. So it's not really about selling a great big volume of books, it's just about selling the most in that hour in a certain category. So often it's what's a marketing term more so than I guess how many books have been sold, and each platform has its different way of measuring what a bestseller is, but absolutely most of them start with strategy. Some of the most famous authors that you'll see, one that just comes to mind now is Wayne Dyer, who recently passed away, as most people on your call would probably know. He's such an inspiration and a motivator and mentor to so many people around the world. And since he's passed away, 4 of his books have actually now become bestsellers. He had 40 books, and about 20 of those were bestsellers. But in the beginning, his first book that has now gone on and sold 70 million copies, he actually purchased all of his books back, his first 3 print runs. He actually purchased them back himself.
Wow.
And then he set about going around and doing as many interviews as he can. So yeah, I guess everything has a strategy behind it in terms of setting out to have a successful book.
In terms of the end product, Fiona, you've got the ebook version and then you've got the printed version. So from your point of view, are both necessary at all stages, or can you get away with just writing an ebook, and is that as powerful as having a printed copy?
Well, again, I think it comes down to your strategy and what you want to do with your book. I think in terms of credibility, positioning, getting media, that sort of thing, I don't think you can go past a printed book. There was another study done earlier this year as well, and in terms of books that are in the self-help genre, the business, reference books, they actually said that 70% of those books are still sold in print format. So if you're in that industry, so you'll hear a lot about ebooks and needing to do an ebook, and I actually suggest that people publish their content in all formats, in print, in ebook, even audiobook, to get your message out to as many people as you can in the world. But in terms of this genre, then you're going to miss out on 70% of sales if you're talking about not doing a print book. But certainly if you imagine going up to somebody at a networking event and saying, oh, go and download my ebook, for example, as compared to saying, here's a copy of my print book that people are going to share, they don't throw away, they keep it, it sits on their desk. No one ever throws a real book away. I think it's very presence. I mean, I'm not sure if you can see all the books on my shelf behind me, but I'm constantly referring to those books, and I'll get them out, I'll read them year after year, I'll highlight them. So I definitely am a huge fan of a printed published book, and it's just more affordable to people than ever before. It's not like you used to hear about people having to order thousands of copies of their book and spending thousands and thousands of dollars. But with the technology that's available these days, it's really easy. You can print just 1 copy of your book. And in actual fact, it's what I suggest my students do, is print 1 copy and make sure that copy's okay, because you can do some really big mistakes and print thousands of books that end up being worthless if you've got a mistake in them. So you can print just 1 book. You can print for the price of a good gift card these days. So I'm not sure what other sort of gifts you can give clients that is under sort of $10, but most of my students are printing books for around the $5 or $6 on average for, a 250-page book, substantial quality book. And then these books can be printed and distributed all around the world. So you might write your book in Australia and someone in Germany can buy your book at the click of a button. It's printed and sent to that person and you never even have to touch the book. So I think, having that available now just does make it available to everybody.
I totally agree with you, because when I go out doing my day-to-day work, I do find that having a book available is a very powerful tool in persuading someone to believe in you, or it's that ultimate final giveaway that transforms people's mindsets about your status and your success. So it definitely works. I'd be interested to turn our attention towards your business, which you co-founded, Author Express. And in that business you promote the tagline, from inspiration to publication in 5 simple steps. So can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by the 5 simple steps? What does that entail?
So basically, I talk about the 5 steps that anyone needs to take on that journey. So having an idea for your published book and actually turning that published book into a real book that you can hold in your hands. So the first step I talk about is prepare, and we've already spoken about that with starting with the end in mind. And then the second step is to produce your book. And then there's all different ways that you can produce it. You can write it, you can talk it, you can have it ghostwritten, you can compile it and use other people's information, for example. One of the really quick ways that I often tell people about when you're thinking of producing your book is you can do something like a 100-page book and get 100 of your favorite inspirational quotes and package it up with your own cover on your book that promotes your own brand or your own personal brand, your business brand. That's a really great way to produce a book really quickly. I also have templates and blueprints that just show people exactly how they need to lay out their book, so they're not worried about what goes where and how to make it all official. So because you do want to do a quality print book that's great and good to go into bookstores and things like that. You don't want to be doing, a substandard book. The third step is all about packaging your book. So that's all about the cover design, because you need to be able to attract your reader. So if somebody looks at the cover of your book, they've got about 4 seconds for you to attract them to that book. So you really need to know who you're writing that book for, and then just make sure things like the images and the title and the subtitle and the fonts that you use are right for that person, and then including the certain types of things in your book that's going to make your book successful. And then it's publishing your book. So it's deciding on the method of publishing that's going to suit your outcome. People with a big audience will often do a big volume print if they already have a community, if they're already a speaker or someone that has, a platform to sell a product. And then the last step is to promote your book. And there's so many ways now to promote your book with social media, traditional media, mouth media. I say that's the biggest one. Word of mouth is still huge in terms of people that write and publish a book, and people talk about it, pass it on. But in promoting your book now, we've got so much available to us, and that's free. We've got Google, we've got YouTube that becomes your TV, you've got iTunes that becomes your radio. And what you can really do once you've written your book is break it down into repurposing all that into your blog post, into your podcast, into all the different ways that you can then use to promote your book.
Yeah. Well, last quick question, then I'll pass it back to Stuart, and perhaps we can wrap up shortly. How long does the process actually last from start to finish, in terms of if someone wants to work with you and publish a book? How long is the process, and how much time and commitment does one need to put into making this happen, I suppose, within that realistic time frame?
I think that's a tricky one to answer, because it really depends on how much time someone wants to put in. Some people will. So I take them through a really simple 3-step process that basically organises and orders all of the information that you already have. So you can just sit down and do that process within half an hour. And then it's a matter of, for someone that's going to talk their book, for example, if you know your information, your content, then people will just talk that in a weekend, and then they're going to get that turned into a transcription and polished and packaged into a book. Other people are working full time, so they might put aside half an hour a day for perhaps 6 months. So it really, really depends on the individual. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who want it quick and they want it fast. And as long as you can be ordered and organised as well, like having your resources ready, starting your book cover, for example, while it's at the editors, you can really speed up the process. But I certainly do help members in my Author Express program to do that by, I guess I say join the dots, hold their hand and join the dots in the process. So it doesn't really have to be a difficult thing anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not that difficult. It's actually within realistic timeframes, and one that you can implement really on a day-to-day. And I've certainly found that myself, just dedicating a half hour here or there at a cafe whilst you've got a bit of creative time, and you just chip away at it bit by bit. Thanks, Fiona. Back to you, Stuart.
So, Fiona, just one last question that I'd like to ask. You know, we got a fair few people watching on right now, and possibly some of them are just sitting there saying, hey, it's easy for her, it's easy for these guys that are on this show right now, but I don't know if I could do that. What do you say to them right now?
I say that everybody is qualified to be a published author because everybody's got something to share. They've got a message to share, they've got knowledge, they've got expertise. Everyone is qualified to be a published author. I think sometimes people think they need special qualifications, and the first thing I say to people is absolutely not. Everyone's got a message to share. It's just about learning how to get that message out. And I just... The other thing about having a book is that it's hard to explain to people is that fulfillment that you get when you become a published author, and knowing that you've made a difference in the world, and knowing that you've shared your message, and what an incredible legacy to leave in the world. Like, to me, to be able to leave a legacy in the way of a published book is incredible. So everyone has the skills to do it. If you can talk, you can write a book, you can publish a book. It's just about following the steps and knowing the steps. I just believe everybody has a book inside of them.
Awesome. So, look, what we're going to do to round out, Fiona, is we're just going to get one particular item from each of us to close off, just one little golden nugget or something that you can offer the audience. While you're thinking about that, I'm just going to repeat to everybody something that's been said throughout the show that you've mentioned quite consistently in your presentation. And what you've been saying tonight is start with an outcome. You've got to know where it is you want to go and what you want to achieve. You've got to have a vision, and it's got to have a purpose. And the really big thing I thought that you mentioned just fairly rarely, but a couple of times, was take inspired action. And I hope that anybody watching on tonight has got enough out of what you've seen and heard tonight to take inspired action. And with that, perhaps if I come back to you, Fiona, you can just give us one little golden nugget for the audience.
Oh, well, I guess it's, to me, just do what you love and what you're passionate about. I know Ben Harvey, who's the co-author of my program, he says, when you find your message, you find your millions. And I think that's one of those things that is true. It's about following your own heart and writing about what you love, and just absolutely believing in yourself, because when you set out, I think you know it's normal when you're going outside of your comfort zone and doing something like writing a book. I think it's normal that this resistance does pop up, and resistance is there to keep us safe. It's there to say, you're not an author, you can't write a book, but it's just about what successful people do. Act on that inspired action. If you feel inspired by what I've said tonight and inspired to write your own book, then get started. Just start tomorrow. Just start writing down what are the 7 most common questions you get asked, and make that your 7 chapters, and start coming up with a title, and start going into bookstores and looking at different book covers. And I think just act on the inspiration, and absolutely just do what you love, follow your passion. I know everyone says it, but it's so true. I've been working on the Millionaire books for 7 years now, and if I wasn't passionate about it, I wouldn't have continued to do that. So my motto for the Millionaire School is be your own success story, and that's really, I guess, the little nugget that I'd like to leave, that everybody can be their own success story, and it's just about finding what that is for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Federico. I'm sure you'll add to that.
I'd be delighted to say to Fiona, thank you so much for helping me publish this book, which 2.5 years ago I set out to achieve, the Millionaire Coach book. I've got to truly say that opportunity that Fiona gave me really created a new career path in writing, and now I have the fortune to attract editors from around the world who really want to engage with my services as a writer. and that all happened from this small opportunity that turned out to be a big opportunity. So thanks again, Fiona.
Oh, thanks a million, Federico. That's there you are, inspiring millions just there. And that's the thing. I think you never know where that opportunity is going to take you. So being a published author absolutely opens doors, like you've just said it. It opens doors that, and you are positioned differently. It's just a fact of the matter that you are seen as an authority. So you will get those opportunities.
Definitely. So on a personal note, Fiona, thank you so much for sparing the time tonight and to share your story. That certainly has inspired a few people out there to consider the option of publishing their own book. So once again, thank you, and we'll round up the show. And Stuart, perhaps you might want to say the last word or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Fiona. Thanks very much, Federico. It's been a good show tonight, and we've learned a lot. And I just want to pass one last little thing. As Fiona said, when you find your message, you find your millions. And if you want to touch base with Fiona, you can definitely find her at themillionaireschool.com. So go there. That's her URL for her website. There's plenty of options there. Go and have a look, and you'll find you need to know about creating your own millionaire book. With that, I'm rounding out. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate your attendance this evening, and good night, and stay tuned for the next one next week.
Bye.
Bye.